Good evening, my dear people. So good to see you again. One of my favorite things about doing a State of the University address is the attendee list. I love looking down the list here and seeing so many wonderful names that have been with us for so long, including some that I haven't seen in a while. Very good. Wonderful. Excellent. Okay. So thanks for joining me here tonight. It is time for the State of the University Address 2016 to give you guys an update on some of the things that have been going on, and most importantly, looking ahead towards what's going to be happening over the course of the next year, especially this next academic year. There's a lot of things going on. This past year has been an amazing year of growth as an institution, both as a school, that is, as far as our classes and the work that we do there. But in this past year, really even more as an institution, kind of behind the scenes. And I'm not sure I'm sure that some of this has been visible to students. But boy, has it been a revolutionary year as far as the working of the school. I think about where we were a year ago today, the beginning of June 2015. And at that point, we were still operating basically in startup mode, where I was kind of the only central point of contact for, we had a bunch of people who were doing things. It's not that I wasn't delegating any work or trying to keep it all to myself, but we had a number of people who were volunteering in different ways. We had started the work-study program, but we didn't really have any kind of real organization, and we didn't have any way to really communicate and coordinate what we were doing. So about 11 months ago now, we launched a major thing. We subscribed to this new software program called Bitrix, which is a communication system. And we actually have like an organizational chart and leadership structure and the ability to communicate with each other and for everybody to know whom they should communicate with when they have a question about something. And it's just, the way in which we're operating now compared to where we were a year ago, it's hard for me even to contemplate where we were a year ago today, and it's been a really huge deal. What's coming up this year is basically kind of taking that foundation that we have solidified so greatly over this past year and kind of moving that forward in a sense into our academic program. Our changes, the things that are coming up this year, the changes that are coming up this year are going to be much more directly impacting the lives of our students, as well as our sort of listeners and donors and everybody else, and because we're in so much of a better place to really sort of rethink and begin really kind of taking the next steps forward as a school, which is super exciting. The main things we're going to talk about tonight, I want to talk about our academic program. We're going to be making some significant changes in our courses and how we do our academic program. So that's the number one thing I want to talk about. And the second thing I want to talk about is increased student community. We want to really emphasize community and getting people plugged in and connected here at Signum University, and we're going to talk about the ways we're going to do that. And then third, I want to talk about our public programs. We have, of course, a number of programs with stuff available for free for people, and we're going to be adding some new things and doing some new things there as well. So we're going to end up talking about that. So anyway, so that's the plan for tonight. That's the stuff kind of coming up. But now let me anticipate a question that I know you're going to ask. And that is, I know someone or several people are going to want to ask about our progress in the accreditation process. So let me address that right here at the beginning. First of all, what I would like to do, of course, let me start off by saying, as before, in case you didn't hear me say it before, I'm legally obligated not to give you a very specific update about where we are in the process and what's going on and everything. It's actually part of the rules. Like the first rule of the accreditation process is that you don't talk about the accreditation process. I didn't make that rule. I'm not a huge fan of that rule, but it is the rule, and I can't give really almost any specifics. But I do want to say this. Really, everything that we're going to be talking about tonight pretty much is an accreditation update, if that makes sense. Basically, the thing that we think about the accreditation process. The accreditation process is like 80%, at least 80%, preparing ourselves to be looked at by the accreditors, right? And of course, there are enormous quantities of reports and documents that we have to prepare. And that's been our focus most of the way through. We've been making a lot of progress towards building all those things that we have to do and everything. But even more important, really, than just the sort of the documentation that we have to submit, that we have to prepare and submit. Even more important is sort of the programs and initiatives that have to be implemented and that have to be shown to be implemented. Basically, it's not just we have to make ourselves look good on paper or, sort of go through and fill, check in all the boxes but we also have to be able to show them what we do is what you want to see us doing. And that is much more challenging. It requires much more, as hard as it is, as challenging as it is to do all the reports and write all the papers. Actually putting all the systems and programs in place is a much bigger deal and much more challenging to do. That's really the big step that we're taking now. And the things that we're going to be putting in place that I'm going to be talking about here today, I hope you'll begin to see the picture by the end of the session here tonight of how much closer this gets us to operating. The phrase I kept using last year when we had that revolution that I described in the way we operated as a staff and faculty. The word I kept using is Signum is gonna become a grown-up institution, right? We're gonna operate like a real grown-up, company, nonprofit company anyway. And we have, and that's, again, that has been super successful over the last year. Now, this next step that we're going to be taking in 2016 to 17 is going to be us operating like a real grown-up school, right? Like an institution of higher education that we are ready to invite anyone to come and look at, that we're really proud of. And I mean, of course, I'm already proud of everything that we've achieved at Signum, but you know what I mean. Those of you who have been, I know people on this list, my attendee list that I'm looking at now, have been with us forever, right? And you guys know how much of a shoestring we have operated on, how we have built what we've done here at Signum from scratch, and how much we've kind of over the years scrambled around and tried to kind of piece things together. We are changing the way that we do things, and again, sort of becoming a real grown-up institution of higher education, and that's going to be really, really fun. Once we're ready for the initial evaluation, for the actual evaluation in the accreditation process, the evaluation itself is actually not that long. Again, the challenge is putting us in a place where we can really be standing firmly and be ready to have all the light shown into all the places in our system and to really stand up to that scrutiny. So anyway, as I said, I hope that you will see how the things I'm going to be describing are a really big step towards accreditation. So thank you again, as always, for understanding that. Okay, well, our first big piece of news tonight is probably one you've already seen or already noticed, but of course, we have a new website. This has been a major project that's been going on for some months, and I wanted to show that here. This is the new Signum University website, which is now full of lots of relevant and useful information. We now have Signum University. The new Signum University site is, again, it's like a real grown-up website for a school. So let me point out a few things. First of all, before I do anything else, I want to do some thanks to people who worked really hard on our website and putting our website together. I want to thank Kelly Fancher for all the work that he did in helping to set up. He's the one who handles our hosting and all those behind the scenes stuff that I mostly don't understand how they work. So I'm especially grateful and dependent upon Kelly for this. So yeah, find it yourself. Go to signumuniversity.org and wow, you'll be amazed. But of course, primarily, I want to thank Curtis Wyatt, who has, whose work most of this website really is, and he's poured so much of himself into this. So grateful for his expertise and for his really tireless work in putting this together. So you can see, if you want to sort of learn more, again, we have like lots of actual relevant stuff about who we are and what we do. If you ever have a hard time kind of explaining to somebody like, what is it, this Signum thing, and what makes us different? Like, you can even read our mission statement and find out more about who we are and what we're doing. It's pretty cool. But there are some specific features and pages that of course, I leave you to browse this at your leisure, but there are a couple things that I particularly want to draw your attention to that Curtis had asked me to make sure that you guys all knew. First, if you're looking for something and you can't find it, don't miss the search icon is kind of hidden amongst the social media icons up here. So it can be easy to overlook. Once you click on it, you won't overlook it. So there you go. So if you want to search for something on the site, just want to make sure to draw your attention to that little magnifying glass up there. Second thing is, of course, if you are searching and you still can't find what you're looking for, you can always get in touch with us. So Signum University, sorry, what happened to me here? Here we go. Signum University, contact us, and yeah. So you can contact us. This is the email address, phone number, postal mail if you're really insistent. I don't recommend postal mail, really, in the 21st century. But hey, there it is. And our contact form. And of course, if you do reach out to us really by almost any of these methods, you will be handled by our wonderful the door ward of Signum University, who will probably not permit you to bring your ancient swords inside the hall, but I can always trust her judgment on whether or not to permit somebody to bring their staff in. Anyway, this is Sharon Hoff, and she has she's been one of those really great changes that's happened over this past year, and her work in both assisting me and in really helping to facilitate. If you have any questions, like you don't know, you have a question about something at Signum University and you're not sure whom to ask about it, just use one of these contact links, send a note to Sharon, and she will get you in touch with whomever you need to be gotten in touch with. The other thing that, of course, I wanted to point out here on the new page is there is now excellent and up-to-date information, some of which is never really been presented like this before, about our degree and its requirements. It's kind of an amazing thing, right? So in the admissions tab here, you find great general information like how our courses work and the application link and everything. On the graduate program tab here, you can find this page on the MA in Language and Literature. Will bring you to a page which actually tells you about the program, some background as to why we do what we do and who we are, and the actual degree requirements listed down here. We have a page that was on that same tab that I was just showing you on our thesis guidelines. So if you want to know about what our thesis is and how it works, lots of information here and links to contact our thesis coordinator, Serena Higgens. So that's all newly packaged information for everybody that we are delighted to have here all in one place. Financial information, sometimes there have been occasions recently when people have been having a hard time finding what our courses actually cost and what our tuition is. We're not ashamed. We're not trying to hide it because it's actually kind of a feature here at Signum. But, of course, this is the page that explains our tuition and explains all this stuff. So, anyway, so that's that. We also have a course catalog, right? A listing of all of the courses we have ever offered. So if you want to search through and kind of browse through the courses that we have, you might see courses on a list, as for instance, perhaps some of the list I might be showing you later on this evening. And you want to learn more about those, well, go to the course catalog and you can read all of the descriptions and Like what is this Lovecraft class about? You can find out what the Lovecraft class is about, and you will be able to see even the week-by-week breakdown. So all of these pages are now here in our course catalog, which is pretty cool. And there will be a couple other things that I will be showing you as we go along here this evening, but that's kind of the basics. Links up here at the top for the mythgard.org page, which is still the old mythgard.org page. It'll be changing over at some point too. Our film page. So anyway, lots of good stuff. So that's one thing. This is just like the new web page, which is really cool. This is like the warm-up act for the stuff that's going to be coming this coming year, right? That's just the very beginning of things. So okay, I want to talk about the academic program now. So I hinted that the academic program is going to undergo some really major changes. The first and biggest change for the academic program is really basically a philosophical shift in how we think about our program, how we as Signum think about our program, and how you as students think about our program. To this point, basically, over the first few years of our program, we've always focused on courses. I mean, of course, as you know, if you've been here, like the big thing is always like, which courses are going to be offered next year? And there's like the big moment when we release, and now featuring the courses for next term. Aren't these courses awesome, and don't you want to take them? And, they are, and it's cool. Basically, in other words, our focus has been delivering a series. Our focus has been on delivering a series of really cool courses, right? And although we've been able to sort of repeat some classes occasionally, we, generally have been focusing on bringing brand new classes every semester as much as possible, and just kind of enticing people with new stuff. Now, this is great, and it was really necessary, of course, as we're building the program from scratch, right? In our first few years, of course, how could we help having new classes every semester? And that was a really great place to be in, and it has been really fun. But there's a problem with this, right? A problem which sort of means that kind of mentality can't really continue indefinitely. Because, of course, when we're thinking that way about our courses, and when we're encouraging you to think that way about our courses, we don't really develop a regular course of study for our students who are wanting to pursue a degree, right, and work ultimately towards their thesis and complete our program. We want our students to be able to undertake a cohesive series of courses in which they can explore their chosen area of interest. I mean, what a concept, right? Actually be able to plan your academic program. And again, with many people even having their thesis or some kind of thesis concept in mind, or if you don't have it in mind at the beginning, you're much more likely to get there if you're actually pursuing a more sort of logical and cohesive set of courses as you go through. This, of course, has been impossible in the past when our course offerings have been as ad hoc and unpredictable as they've had to be, with the way that things have always been. Also, we've reached the point where continual novelty is actually kind of a detriment to our program. We have a bunch of newer students. I see on the list there, several of our students who have just joined the program in the last couple semesters who are here this evening. And I know that you, who are new to the program, have frequently asked things like, hey, we've seen references to all these awesome courses you've offered. When are they coming up again, right? And we've never really been able to answer that question really clearly or really sort of promise when we were going to be able to do those again. So the shift, therefore, is away from thinking of like, what's the next set of brand new classes going to be offered this coming semester, but rather, instead of just thinking about the courses and the new courses to come, thinking about the program as a whole, okay? And one of the things that we're doing to sort of encourage everybody to focus on this, to sort of think in this new way, is we are introducing official concentrations into our degree. Now, these have kind of informally existed, of course. People have always been sort of choosing courses they were interested in. There are some people who take every Tolkien class that we offer because Tolkien studies is really where their heart is. Others who have been kind of leaning more towards the sort of science fiction and other imaginative lit side and everything. Some who are hugely gung-ho for our language stuff and the philology courses and all those things. So we've officially formed 3 concentrations. And those, as I was just hinting at, Tolkien studies, imaginative literature, and Germanic philology. These are our three official concentrations. We will probably be adding more as we go through. In fact, there's a fourth concentration that we're still kind of working on, which we may be able to sort of make official fairly soon, which is a concentration in basically older literature, ancient, medieval, and Renaissance literature. Anyway, but for now, these are our three current concentrations, and here's what it means for us to be having these concentrations. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So if we go to the language and literature section in academics, we see pages for our concentrations. I'm going to show you the Tolkien Studies one as an illustration. So, okay, this is the Tolkien Studies concentration page, right, to talk about our Tolkien Studies program. Again, we don't want you to just think like, hey, we regularly trot out some cool Tolkien courses. We do, and we still will, but I want to encourage you instead to be thinking about a Tolkien Studies program, thinking about actually focusing on getting a degree in Tolkien Studies. So this page, our new page here, tells us about the why to do the program and what Tolkien Studies and stuff is about. As you can see, information on our primary primary faculty. And now here, I would like to draw your attention to this especially. Our list of courses in Tolkien Studies. And now here's the thing. Here's the thing that we've never said before and will now be officially true. We are promising that we are going to schedule to offer every single one of these classes, not just again soon, but every 2 years. On a 2-year repeating cycle, all of these courses will be offered so that whenever you enter, so that you don't have the experience, and I know some of our new students have felt like this in the past, that you just missed this really awesome course and goodness, maybe it won't show up for another 4 years or so. You missed out. It's not going to be like that. Whenever you enter the program, you will be able to sort of jump in and do the program in an efficient amount of time, or to take longer if you want to. Now, you'll notice that this is not just an actual list of classes that we promise that we're going to offer regularly, but we also have planning involved in this. Again, we're not just doing this ad hoc anymore, kind of as lecturers are becoming available, as we've done in the past. You'll see that there's a mixture of classes here within our Tolkien Studies program, where you can have both a mix of classes on the classes directly on the primary texts, right? Story of the Hobbit, my class on the Hobbit, Verwin Flieger's wonderful Tolkien's World of Middle-earth class, which is her Lord of the Rings seminar, essentially. The Beyond Middle-earth class that I offered with Tom Shippey, where we're looking at Tolkien's non-Middle-earth writings, the poetry class, but then also there's a bunch of classes which sort of encourage you to be able to go deeper and to look at sort of other elements of, not just the study of the primary text, things like Tolkien and tradition, where we're looking at the relationship between Tolkien's writings and the ancient works that he really loved, looking at Tolkien and the Kalevala, Tolkien and the Arthurian tradition, Tolkien and the Norse Eddas, right? Or the Lewis and Tolkien class that I offered, where I do a close comparison of C.S. Lewis's works and Tolkien's works and look at kind of the relationship and the similarities and differences among them. John Garth's wonderful Tolkien's Wars in Middle-earth class, looking at his time in World War I and the ways in which that impacted his life, and really thinking about the relationship between Tolkien's early life and his early works and how that formed his mythology. Really, really cool stuff. Shippey's Beowulf class, of course. So we have this mixture of classes, and again, these are going to be offered in such a way that you can build yourself, and knowing that they're going to be offered, each one of these is going to be offered every 2 years, knowing that you can really build your own program and plan your way through the course of study that you want to do. So that's what's going to be happening. Pretty cool, huh? That's going to be pretty funny. Yeah. Jim Hart says that's an all-star pitching rotation. Isn't it though? I mean, it's kind of fun, right? I mean, and Jim, I'm going to be coming back to that in a second, because that's one of the things that I find really exciting about this whole thing. Anyway, okay, so I mentioned the fourth concentration that's going to be coming as well. We already have a bunch of classes that are focused on medieval stuff. We're having, as I'll be showing you, a Renaissance medieval class that's coming up soon, a new one. And by the way, I should add, this doesn't just mean we're only going to be teaching these same classes. There will also be new classes coming in, not with as much frequency. We're not going to have 3 brand new classes every term the way that we've done in the past. But this doesn't mean that we're never going to have new classes again. There definitely will be others. Okay, so let me go through and make sure I'm explaining everything here. Okay. Also, one other thing I wanted to mention. There's one other change that's going to be happening within our program, really within our program requirements, and that is this spring of 2017. We're going to be offering a new course, which is a long overdue course, which is going to be a course called Research Methods, an introductory course on writing, research methods, and literary theory. Really, kind of a really necessary orientation to graduate study in literature and language that I know a lot of people have really wanted to have and have really kind of wished for, and we've never been able to offer before. But we're going to be starting to offer that in the spring, and that's something that we're going to want all of our new students to take. Okay. Now, several of you are already asking questions, which are exactly what I was anticipating. That is, okay, how are we going to do all this, right? I mean, we've been offering like 2 to at most 4 classes per term, rarely more than 10 in a given year. And then here I'm saying we're going to do all these classes every 2 years plus, 2 other concentrations, right? How are we gonna do all those? Let me explain. The restriction of our semester reschedule has been our biggest restriction. We've never been able to afford to offer more than 3 classes per term, 4 with the addition of the language class. Starting this fall, we're blowing the doors off. Beginning in this fall, we're gonna offer 6 classes in the fall, 6 classes in the spring. But now let me explain the breakdown here. As you will notice, and several of you have already noticed, it's not Rings of Power, Tom, nor are there time turners involved. But again, going back down here, as many of you know, Verlyn Flieger she's re-retired. She was already retired when she began teaching for us. But she's recently, due to family circumstances, kind of re-retired, and she's not able to teach regular courses with us anymore. How we are going to do our classes starting this coming fall is through a mixture of pre-recorded lectures and live lecture classes. Okay, so we're going to have the 6 classes. Of those 6 classes that we're offering this fall, 2 of them are going to be new live classes, which are just like the classes that we've already run. Instead of running that 3rd live class that we've always run before, we're going to replace it with 3 other classes, which is going to be in which we're going to use the recordings of the lectures from the last time we ran the class, as well as live preceptor sessions. So students who take these classes will be getting the same lectures, really exactly the same lectures as the last time the class was run, and they're also going to have the same interactions, the same relationship with their preceptors that they would have had in other circumstances. It is also my hope, certainly my plan, with regards to classes that I have taught in the past. Some of my classes are going to be taught with the pre-recorded lectures as well. But when we do that, I'm hoping to have a few sort of bonus sessions where I'll come in and do some live kind of extra lecture Q&A kinds of stuff. So we'll do some supplementation there. But basically, it's going to be like the language classes that we've been doing. Those of you who have taken our language classes are already familiar with this model, where you have the lectures, which you watch according to a weekly schedule, but on your own time and at your own convenience. But you still have the in-depth preceptor sessions that you are working through. So again, it's going to be our 6 courses are going to be a mixture to the 2 live courses and the ultimately 4 counting the lecture. Let me let me show you what that is actually gonna look like. Hang on, I've got to move this. All right. In the fall, here's what we're doing. Okay. So, in the fall, we're offering these 6 classes. The Beowulf Translation Seminar, a new class called Folkloric Transformations, offered by Dimitri Fimi. So it's going to be a new course from Dimitri Fimi, who is going to be, and this is going to be a new live course. And then the Story of the Hobbit class that hasn't been offered since spring of 2013. It's been, like 3 and almost 4 years since I first taught that class, which at the time actually received the highest enrollment we still have ever had. I think that one still holds the all-time record for all-time enrollment. But anyway, so there's the Story of the Hobbit class, Sherlock and Ratiocination by Amy Sturgis, Tolkien and Tradition, which I was just explaining, by Verlin Flieger, and the Intro to Anglo-Saxon class, again with Michael Drout, which we ran for the first time last fall. As before, we did this, we instituted this a few semesters back, our commitment to run our language courses in a regular cycle. We're going to be continuing to do that with an addition, as I'm going to show you soon. Okay, so these are our courses. Now, of these, here we go. Of these, again, so we have the 2 classes, which are both new and, live, entirely live, no pre-recorded content in these 2. These are going to be pre-recorded classes with the live preceptor sessions always, of course. So that's what we're doing in the fall. In the spring, we're going to have 6 courses again. We have, of course, our new, as I mentioned, our new research methods class, which is taught by Carl Persson and Serena Higgens and I. It's actually going to be sort of a big collaborative team effort. There'll probably be others that we're going to bring in to teach some of the different elements of that class. It's going to be a lot of fun. A new class called Shakespeare in the Middle Ages with Liam Daly and Faith Acker as the lecturers. Many of you will know those 2 as they've been preceptors with us. In fact, Liam and Faith were the original preceptorial team in the very first class we ever offered in the fall of 2011. Liam Daly and Faith Acker were the 2 preceptors for that class with me. So anyway, so the 2 of them are going to be co-teaching this class on Shakespeare in the Middle Ages, which should be really fun. And then we're going to be offering Tolkien's World of Middle-earth from Verlin Flieger, the Harry Potter saga, and my Lewis and Tolkien class on a pre-recorded basis. And again, the top 2 are new and going to be live lectures, and the bottom ones are pre-recorded. But did you notice the other thing that we're offering in the spring? An intro to Old Norse, which we've been working on for a while. I can't tell you who the lecturer is because we're still one step away from absolutely confirming him, but I feel confident enough to put it on and say we're going to do this in the spring. Of course, there's always a chance that something could go wrong, but I think it's gonna work out. We've been excited to offer Old Norse for a while, and it's going to be a great addition to our Germanic philology concentration, so that you'll not only be able to do our Anglo-Saxon sequence, that is Intro to Anglo-Saxon, the Beowulf Translation Seminar, and Tom Shippey's Beowulf class in a Beowulf lecture, but also Old Norse, and we're hoping to introduce some other follow-up Old Norse classes that you can use for that. So yeah, Erica gives the Old Norse class a big thumbs up. Absolutely, Erica. Exactly, Kay. The recorded classes will be even easier to fit into schedules. Exactly. You won't have to worry about the lectures and being in time for the lecture. I know a lot of our students watch the recordings of the lectures anyway because they can't make the time of the lectures. And yes, so the only thing that is at a set time is the preceptor sessions. And as always, when scheduling the preceptor sessions, we work with our students and try to set those at a time that will actually work. Yes. So and what? Let's see. Good. Dan Kinney is lamenting that he was too prompt in fulfilling his credit hours, and he's missing all of these great classes. Jim Hart was just saying the same thing. How am I ever supposed to stop taking classes and write a thesis? I know it's hard. It's actually one of the reasons that you may remember, if I can bring back our website here for a second, you may remember that a couple semesters ago we started a new thing, which was the auditing. No, auditing is not a new thing. It's been going on forever. But the new discussion auditor level, the comments you guys are making are actually one of the things that we really kind of took into account. We heard from a bunch of our students who are almost finished or who have just finished, who have basically been saying, I've been doing these classes mostly for fun. If I'm graduating, does that mean I have to stop now? Right? On the one hand, we're kind of scratching our heads and we're like, well, sort of, yes. I mean, like legally, we can't just let you keep accumulating credits infinitely. Like that, the accreditors frown upon that kind of thing. But we did want to. But at the same time, I see no reason if there are people who still really want to, be in a class and be in the discussion group, basically be a part of things, but they don't need the credit anymore because they've completed the program. Why shouldn't they be able to do that? Why shouldn't they be able to stay involved? And of course, we have always had some auditors who would really, really want to be in the discussion group, and we've never been able to accommodate that before. So the discussion auditor seat was really designed in large part to enable people to continue. So remember, we're going to be offering these courses on a regular cycle. So you will have even if you can't take them this time around, you will have plenty of chances here. So no, Dan, there's no need to assume a new identity. Yeah, no, that's really not necessary. Good. Okay. Anyway, that's just to answer those questions. Where else? Summer. I didn't get as far as summer. There's more. Okay, so in the summer, first thing you'll notice, of course, is it's a shorter list. This is because in the past, it's always been true that fewer of our MA students are able to take classes for credit in the summer just because of travel conflicts and things like that. It's not as good a time for course taking. So we have fewer. Instead of the 6, we have 4. And of these, only the one of them is a new live class, and that is a new class taught by another one of our preceptors, Sarah Brown, who's offering a class called Tolkien and Modern Anxieties, looking at Tolkien's work and sort of 20th century culture and the interactions between them. It should be a really fun class. And then we're offering my Beyond Middle-earth class, the one with me and Chippy. Dimitra Feeney's Celtic Mythology and Children's Fantasy Literature class. We'll be re-offering that again. She taught that a couple years back, and it's never been offered again. So actually, you'll be able to take 2 Dimitra Feeney classes this year. If you do that. And then again, Latin 1, we're again continuing our language rotation so that we always have those running on a regular basis. So these are the classes. Now, so first of all, you see the difference here, right? I mean, those of you who have been around for the longest will appreciate this the most. Not only are we offering so many more classes per term, but when was the last time you ever saw me say, here's the list of courses we're going to be offering 3 semesters from now? Easy answer, never. We've never done that. I've barely been able to sometimes, goodness, there were times when I didn't know for sure until a few weeks before the start of the term. I mean, there was a time when we were there. We're not there anymore. We're nothing like there anymore. Again, those are the kinds of changes that have been happening over the course of this past year. But we have this. Indeed, I have to confess to you, that Serena Higgens is the chair of the Department of Language and Literature, and she and I have actually worked out the rotation of classes. We have the full schedule of classes all the way through fall of 2019, I think. We worked it out at least 3 or 4 years, at least a good 3 years. Most of the 4th year from now we have already mapped out. And Lynn, the Chaucer class is going to come back. It's not going to be in this coming year, but it'll definitely be offered in the next academic year after that. So the Chaucer class is going to come back. It's going to be on one of those on the regular cycle as well. So And as I mentioned, how the Anglo-Saxon sequence is going to be offered. Yeah, good. So let me just go back for a second. There are, of course, 3 reasons why we're shifting our approach here. We haven't really done this before. I mean, as you know, those of you who've been here for a while, offering these classes with the pre-recorded lectures and the preceptor. I mean, we've had that model with our language classes. We've never done that with literature classes before. There are really 3 reasons why we decided to make that shift. First, of course, is apart from the desire to build our program and offer more courses, but even beyond that, there are 3 other reasons. One is that it greatly increases the flexibility of scheduling. That is to say, we don't have to worry about lots of things conflicting with each other. It enables us to schedule things in advance, right? The biggest problem we've had is in lining up all of the live lectures to make sure that they're able to teach during that time. It's been very difficult, and one of the chief reasons why we have never been able to say down the road, here 2 semesters from now is the class that we're going to offer. We could never do that before, but now it's so it enables us to build a dependable, predictable class rotation. Another reason, of course, as several of you have already noticed, is that a bunch of these lectures are not available anymore. Dr. Shippey and Dr. Flieger have kind of re-retired. It's they were retired before they began, and they didn't retire at the minimum age. It's been it's been challenging. It's hard for them to be available for a full 12-week semester class anymore. And here we have in our vaults, right, these incredibly valuable courses. I mean, Tolkien and Tradition taught by Verlin Flieger. What a wonderful class. I mean, almost nobody knows better the relationship between Tolkien and those sources. Nobody knows the Kalevala better than Verlin Flieger. And nobody has thought more about Tolkien's relationship with the Kalevala than Verlin Flieger. Just throwing one thing off the top of my head, and of course I don't need to rave to you about Tom Shippey's classes, for instance. But of course, there's others, right? Going backwards for a second. Amy Sturgis's class, of course, as many of you know, due to personal circumstances, Dr. Sturgis isn't able to teach with us live classes anymore. The Star Wars class that she taught in the fall was unfortunately her last. I don't know if maybe she'll be able to be back another time in the future. I don't know, but we're not counting on it. I mean, she said that she couldn't anymore, and we are sad, but we respect that. But we have all of these awesome classes from her that we would love to be able to offer again, and I know that people would really love to be able to do so. So that's another thing. That's just a major benefit for us of doing these kinds of pre-recorded classes, is it gives future generations of students the ability to benefit from the wonderful, wonderful teaching that we have been so privileged to have here at Signum in our first few years. The third reason why we're doing the pre-recorded courses is a little bit less spectacular, a little bit less, but it's just kind of necessity. We need to expand the courses that we need to offer more classes per term, and we need to be able to offer them on a dependable schedule if we're to build the kind of program that we want to and that we need to have. But we're not big enough to support that if we're offering all of those classes live. It costs too much. Let me remind you about, so not only is it difficult for scheduling, but it's very, very expensive. Let me remind you of a couple salutary financial facts, right? I was just checking this with help from one of our wonderful work study students, Amy Trulin, on comparison of Signum University tuition to our sort of main competitors, right? Other online programs that offer courses like ours. Footnote. One of the things, of course, we found is that there still isn't anybody that really offers classes like ours. Even all of these courses that we were comparing to their classes are still really just asynchronous. You just watch a few videos, do some discussion, but really your only interaction with any kind of teacher is on a discussion board or maybe by an email. Again, very different from the philosophy that we have in teaching these things, but even among those schools. Take one thing that I would point to, it's always on my mind because I drive by one of their branch campuses 4 times a day, is Southern New Hampshire University, which has become a major player in the online world, the online education world over the last few years. If you want to take a graduate course in literature at Southern New Hampshire University, you will pay $627 per credit, not per course, per credit. It costs almost $2,000 per course to take your courses there, and they are famous for being cheap and easy, right? Easy they might be, I don't know, but cheap they ain't. Certainly not compared to us. They charge more than 3 times what we charge. Almost, it's crazy. And of course, as I said, it's all asynchronous courses. And then there's the other end of things. In addition to charging, like at most half, often a third or a quarter of what other online schools charge, we also pay our faculty way, way better than other places. Most of these online schools, places like Southern New Hampshire, only pay their faculty between $2,000 and $3,000 total for the entire work of like a 25 student class. For a 25 student class at Signum University, we will pay $9,000 to the faculty who are teaching that class. We believe in actually paying people what they, as close as we can get to what they deserve, and certainly better than what kind of the bitter cutthroat market of adjunct pay in academia generally allows. So we charge 1/3 as much as our, as like one of our main competitors, and we pay 3 times as much, almost 4 times as much as one of our major competitors. You can kind of see how this is really a very, very different model, right? And that's what we're. Oh wait, hang on. There's more. There's another factor, right? Here's another thing that most online schools do, where you have lectures that are recorded by a faculty member, and those recorded lectures become part of the sort of the core of the asynchronous class that people are taking. The other fun thing that so very often happens, a faculty member is paid to record the videos for the class, and then the school says, "Thank you, we own those videos now, and we will use them." And we don't need you anymore, so they lay off the faculty member because they've got the videos now, right? And they own the videos, so they don't have to pay the faculty member anymore. That kind of exploitation of faculty is sadly common, and something that we will play absolutely no part in. With our classes, whenever we're going to be re-offering these classes that we've had before and using the recorded videos, we pay our faculty, the former faculty who recorded those, we pay them royalties for every student who enrolls in those classes. It's like an author who writes a book, and they get royalties on the sale. So it's their work that they put into that classes, and goodness knows we couldn't do those classes without them. And we're very grateful for the work that they did. So all of our former professors, you can know that all of our former professors are still receiving financial benefit from those classes, even though they taught them in some cases several years back. Good. Kate Neville says, as wonderful as the classes are, and she's talking about all the wonderful lectures we've had, it's the preceptor sessions that make it valuable. The ability to talk through one's thoughts with other interested persons, like an online Inklings meeting. Exactly. Kate, I agree. I mean, from the beginning, Signum has always been about, wanting to use internet tools for education, not as just a way to deliver content, right, which is the way that most online schools use them, but as a way to connect people, right? That's what it's all about. That's what the internet is awesome for. It's what the internet is really good for. And that was kind of the initial concept that really started Signum University. Way back in 2010, when I was running the Silmarillion seminar on the Tolkien Professor podcast, that was the sort of light bulb moment that I had, that I was like, wow, the ability to have this kind of discussion and really have this kind of dynamic virtual classroom online, with people scattered all around the world, this is awesome. This is a thing that really needs to be done. Anyway, that's like the origin of Signum University, really, and it's what we've always believed in and always will. We see ourselves as really a game changer in the world. I mean, we hope that we will be a game changer in the world of higher education. We're attempting to sort of hit the reset button and not really think about things the way that other schools think about things. It means, of course, in some ways, it makes us vulnerable. Like I said, I mean, Karita says it sounds like a school started by teachers instead of business persons. It absolutely is, and in fact, you could even go further, Karita, and say that it sounds like a thing that a sort of a business proposition that would make business people squirm. Many people have told me in the past, they're like, undercutting your competitors price-wise is a good move. You don't have to undercut them that much, right? I mean, it's isn't, but that's really not the point. The point is not to be basically competing with the same business model or anything like the same business model that other schools use, but rather to demonstrate. The Signum University program that we have built is our proof of concept that it doesn't have to work like it has always worked, that you don't have to use that model. We can, in fact, find ways, and we have found ways, to offer courses at a tuition level that people, like normal people, can genuinely afford without having to go into debt to do it. And also to make it an environment which can be a really positive work environment where, again, we're not in the business of exploiting the so easily exploitable faculty. I say easily exploitable just because of the nature of the job market in academia today. Anyway, yeah, that's it's the thing that we're trying to do. And this so again, one other way of looking is that it is a necessity, right? We in some ways I would think if we could do all 6 of our classes live, if we could really, if we could afford to do that, which we would, as we grow and get more enrollments, we will. Our model is made for scale. So, if we had, 100 students enrolling in each one of our classes, we'd definitely be able to do more. But then again, there's still then those other 2 issues, right? I want to be able to schedule them dependably. And I want to be able to offer Verlin Flieger and Tom Shippey and Demetra Feeney when she can't come back and do them again, and Amy Sturgis and all these other teachers. I wouldn't want to lose them anyway. So yeah, Karita, absolutely. When Signum is big and famous, you totally get to be the hipsters who liked it before it was cool. You guys will have bragging rights absolutely forever. That's certainly, and you will, and believe me, you all will never be forgotten. Certainly not ever by me. Like I said, come back to the very first comment I made about how wonderful it always is to see the attendee list at these talks. Okay, so that's a little bit about. Well, okay, one final thing to notice. So just kind of coming back to what I was emphasizing at the beginning about the sort of philosophical change to the program, right? This new system is going to allow a much more program planning on students' part. It is going to mean a change of mentality for a lot of our students, right? Our previous system of just kind of spontaneous new classes every term really kind of encouraged students to get into a mode of sort of like the occasional sampling of classes, right? There have been many of our students who have just been like, every semester they're like, so what courses are coming up? I think I'll wait till next semester, right? And they continue to, and then all of a sudden, they're getting an email from Serena Higgens saying, it's time for you to begin thinking about your thesis, and they're like, whoa, I didn't realize I'd taken that many classes. I mean, that's been a thing that's kind of happened, I know, with many of our students, and because it's the mentality that our program as a whole has been in. Beginning now in this new program, we want to encourage our students to kind of be more goal-oriented, at least a little more kind of big picture focused, right? Now that we're like giving you a big picture to focus on, right? And of course, we'll make it, it will be easier to kind of be thinking things through, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about some of the ways in which we hope to support you in that as we move forward. One last point related to that, though, as well, it's also going to be easier for people to take multiple courses in a term if they want to. Of course, it's no problem. Most of our students have always done one course at a time, one course each semester, because certainly at the very beginning, if you look back at sort of the first year of our program, a huge percentage, like more than 90% of our students, were students who had been out of college for a significant period of time, decades in some cases, at least 10, 15 years in every case. I think that the average, and I don't have exact data on this, but from what I know, like the mean age of our students, 3 years ago was probably 40s, early 50s. There was much more, people. The first wave of our students, and many of you still here tonight, were people who were coming back to this, who had been waiting for the opportunity to do something like this, and were delighted that this had kind of come up, and the ability to jump back into this. But I will say, in the last year and a half, there's been a big shift with that. Of our new applicants to the program over the last year and a half, many of them, really the majority of them, have been under 30. And more nowadays, more and more of our new applicants are coming either right out of college, or they've only been out of college for a couple years. And I know that demographic of people, people who are newer from school and sort of just starting out in their careers, rather than people who are much more advanced in their careers and sort of doing this on the side. Many people in that demographic are more likely to want to, do the degree in a shorter, not just take one class a term for, 3-4 years, but do the courses in a more concentrated way and finish in 1 to 2 years. That's going to be possible now. In the old days, that wouldn't even really, 3 courses a term. If they always took every class that we offered, they could have done it, but that wouldn't have given them much choice or much ability to shape their program. Now people will be able to do that a lot more, so there'll be much more options. And so for people who are interested in sort of taking our classes at a sort of a more aggressive rate, you will now definitely be able to do that. Lexi asks a great question. With growth and future planning, do I think a doctorate will be possible? Possible. But it's not a realistic thing in a really short time. And the main reason for that, Lexi, is the accreditation process. We are working on the process for our MA degree. And we can add other degrees after that, and that's another process. Now, the other additional process is much less onerous. Getting over getting the first approval is the major step, and additional steps are easier after that. But you actually can't do it instantly. So it would be, even if we did go that direction, and I'm not 100% sure that would be our top priority, really. I'm not sure. But yeah, even if we did do it and do it as fast as we possibly could, it's not going to be within the next few years. I don't think it could possibly be in fewer than 5 at the absolute least. Would be my guess. But anyway, just given all the factors. But that's a good question, and one, of course, that people have asked before as well. Any other questions about the academic? I don't want to rush on, because I'm ready to shift to the second major topic. We talked about the academic program. I want to talk about student support and community next. Anyway, any last questions about the academic program before we go on? Of course, teaching in this environment has taught me to pause longer than I usually used to pause in a brick and mortar classroom. In a brick and mortar classroom, you always need to pause to give people time to decide whether they want to raise their hand. Here, I need to not only leave that, but make sure to leave time for people to type what they want to type. So, pausing. Okay. Of course, you can always come back and ask it later on as well.